Wow, you guys are never going to believe this, but I'm at camp and it's about 2 hours before dark, so I'm going to tear into setting up my camp. But before I do that, let me show you guys real quick how I got here. So I've been off the pavement for about 5 miles now. I just am about 2 miles off of a little bit more heavily trafficked of a gravel road. And I'm in this little section of country that I just really enjoy. There's kind of these fingers of old growth juniper mixed in between some dry lake beds, and it's harsh country out here, especially in the wintertime. Man, the wind just blows across this country. But I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to find myself a camping spot actually fairly soon. On this trip, something a little bit different is, for me anyway, is that I'm actually hoping to spend a little bit of time around camp. Now, I got really lucky this weekend because the temperatures have been running pretty warm, and then about 2 days ago it started cooling off out in this country. And what happened is it froze up, at least for the most part. I've got a few water holes and stuff that I've got to get through, but for the most part, everything's frozen up solid. Now, the flip side of that is bitter cold out here and the wind's blowing. Right now, the temperature's about 20 degrees or so. So what happens this time of year is, depending on the temperature and the snow, it can really limit where I have the ability to go to. So basically what I have to do is I just kind of am at the whim of nature this time of year, and I just have to kind of go where the terrain allows me to go. And it's turning out just perfect. Between the ground being frozen and the limited amount of snow on the ground, I'm pretty much able to get wherever I want to go out here. So right now, basically what I'm doing is I'm just tooling through this country, looking for a spot to camp. Oh man, I've got some awesome meals to cook on this trip. I'm really looking forward to that. So what I'm looking for is some place that has some good cover from the wind, maybe a nice thick stand of this old growth juniper, a lot of wood supply so I can keep a fire going for quite a while around camp. All right, I'm really liking the looks of this area in here. I'm starting to get into some thicker stands of those old growth juniper trees. I'm just kind of keeping my eyes open for a stand of trees that's set up right so I can get a little shelter from the wind. And gosh, I'm looking good. I might actually even roll into camp a couple hours before dark. That would be a freaking miracle. I'm going to tear into getting camp set up, get a fire going. Well, it's windy as hell out here and the temperature is dropping fast, but I think this is going to be a pretty decent spot to camp, all things considered, out here. So I did find a decent little stand of old growth juniper. There's a lot of wood around in here, and I've got some protection from the wind from these trees. Got a nice level spot for the Jeep, set up the rooftop tent. So I'm going to set up my kitchen and my fire right back up underneath here. I've got this big juniper tree here that'll provide me some overhead cover, and it gives me lots of options for stringing a tarp up if by some chance we do get some snow or some precipitation. Well, this is really interesting. I often say that what's a good place to camp now was a good place to camp for somebody a long time ago in the past. And here's a little spool of rusty wire hanging here by this tree. So who knows how long this has been hanging here, but I'm off-road to this spot. I took off the last little 2-track dirt road about a mile back, just going cross country, looking for a good place to camp. Happened upon this spot that looked good. And then look at this, somebody else has camped here many years ago before me. Yeah, and here's a really old stump, just actually a couple of feet from where I was going to build my fire. And this has been cut off with an axe. So this stump's probably, this was cut, you know, probably 100 years ago or somewhere around there. So definitely somewhere before me, somebody camped in this same spot or did something here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I got out my silky saw and I'm going to trim back a few of these limbs, because right here is where I want to set my chair and my table. And then these limbs are also going to be the start of my firewood supply for the night. Alright, well normally I wait a little later than this to get the fire going, but I've got some big chunks of wood that I want to get burned down into some coals. So I'm going to try these little fire starting packets. This is called Easy Fire, and supposedly you just light the corner of this and set it on top of your wood pile. So I've got kind of a log cabin style stack of wood here, and I'm just going to light the corner of this guy. So you're supposed to just light the corner of it and set it on top of the stack of wood, and then theoretically that stuff will just drip down into the wood and catch your wood pile on fire. A friend of mine, Steve, gave those to me at work. He was saying he uses them to start his wood stove at home. So he gave me a couple of packets of it, and I think I'm going to buy some and just keep a handful of them in the rig, just because it's a quick and easy way to get a fire started, especially if the wood's a little damp or something like that. Yeah, that appears to be working great. Over there's a place where they've been thinning the juniper trees. There was a couple of big chunks, almost firewood chunks here, so I set one of those on there. That piece should burn until dark. I built a little bit of kind of a fire reflective wall type of a deal behind here. Well, I got my fire established, so I'm going to go ahead and set up my sleeping quarters for the night. I feel like I say this on every video, but if I don't, someone will ask me. So I'm running the Free Spirit Recreation 55 High Country Series rooftop tent, and this is the tri-layer insulated one, which I'm really enjoying using in the wintertime. It definitely helps keep the tent a little bit warmer inside. Alright, my bed's made. Alright, hopefully my chair's not still damp from that last trip. Alright, let's go get a table, a couple of more food items, and then our camp will be pretty much set up. So my last couple of trips I've set up after dark, and there hasn't been much sun in the morning when I tore down. So my ready light's still been working good, but I haven't had much time for it to be exposed to the sun in the mornings. So on this trip out here, I just plugged the AC charger in to charge it up for a couple hours while I was driving out here. So I've had to do that about twice since I've owned the ready light. Other than that, it just perpetually has stayed charged just by being able to wake up in the morning and point it towards the sun for a couple of hours. This thing's a cinch to put together, and then it's got a really durable stand on it, which I like. And I have had it out, I mean, you guys that have been watching my channel for a while have seen this thing out in snowstorms, rainstorms, and I've never had an issue with the electronics. It's going on almost 2 years now that I've been using this thing steady. This is the Ready Light, and you can get it at Free Spirit Recreation. You can order it right off their website at gofsr.com. Yep, the light's green, it's fully charged. Alright guys, well, I think I've got enough firewood to get through the evening. I've got this one big log burning on here, and it's going to burn for a while. So I've got probably another half hour before dark, and I'm going to start making dinner. So this is going to be a real treat, and I'm looking forward to it. Plus I'm starving. So I've got an array of ingredients here. So this time I did a little bit more prep work at home. I've got my butter, I've got some crescent rolls, I've got some sauerkraut, some green onions, some mashed potatoes, some sausage, some good German sausage, some cheese, and some sour cream. And I am going to make a variation of one of my favorite, I don't know if it's a traditional German treat or not, but I used to eat it all the time growing up, and it's sauerkraut and sausage and mashed potatoes together, only I'm going to put this inside a pie and see how it comes out in the pie iron. So the first thing I'm going to do is just preheat my pie iron. While my pie iron's heating up, I'm going to break open these crescent rolls. Then I'm just going to unroll a couple of these so I can line the pie iron with them. Oh, I got something to show you guys. I'm super excited. I got a new Benchmade. So this is the Benchmade AFO. I had this knife before for about 5 years, and it was my all-time favorite folding knife. And my buddy Austin from Benchmade hooked me up with another one that has the Coyote Works logo on it. So I'm really stoked about that. Just going to whittle myself up a little butter knife here. Now, in case you guys are wondering, I do have actual utensils in my cooking box. But butter, especially when it's cold like this, is kind of a pain in the butt to clean off of stuff. So I just whittle a little butter knife and then I can just throw it in the fire when it's done. Alright, so I've just kind of pressed the croissant, or the crescent roll dough in there. Now I'm going to add some mashed potatoes. Then I'll add some sauerkraut. Now I'm going to layer in the sausage. Get a good, nice amount of sausage. We like lots of meat, right? Okay, and the last thing, we're going to put a little cheese on it. Just to kind of bind it all together. And then we'll just stick it right down here in the fire on some nice coals. And we'll give it about 3 minutes aside. The thing you want to be careful about is not overcooking things, because what has a tendency to happen if you overcook it is you'll end up burning your crust or whatever your bread is. So usually about 4 to 6 minutes. Oh, it's almost too done. Top it with a little bit of cheese. Some sour cream. And a couple of green onions. Look at that masterpiece. Alright, I am starving. Let's see how she is. Oh, smells amazing. Man, guys, that is incredible. I'm not just saying that because I'm starving. This is really good. You got that little bite of the sauerkraut, the cheese melted in there, the sour cream. Oh, it's just an amazing combination. Alright, well that was delicious. Now I'm waiting for number 2 to cook. And my beverage of choice for the evening is 1 coconut water. I gotta tell you guys, I think this might be one of my finest cooking meals out here. This has been pretty delicious, and I'm just getting started. I got a dessert planned tonight too. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, the second one fell apart a little bit on me, but didn't affect the taste one little bit. It's still delicious. Alright, so for the dessert, I've got a really special treat. So, got a couple of packages of cream cheese here. So I'm going to put some cream cheese in here. There we go. Look at that. And then I've got a combination of blueberries and blackberries. So we're just going to stuff this guy full of berries. Then we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top of the berries. You don't need it too sweet. Alright, so we've got cream cheese on the bottom, berries on the top, and the croissant dough for the crust. So, I'm going to stick this in the fire and we're going to have us a delicious dessert. Oh man, guys, this is something else. Piping hot, berry cheese pie, Danish, whatever you want to call it. So good and so simple to make. Line your pie tins with the croissant dough, fill them with cream cheese and a handful of berries, whatever kind of berries you like, and then just sprinkle a little sugar over the top of the berries. It's perfect, not too sweet, just nice, and that cream cheese with a little bit of sweetness from the berries is just like the most amazing blend of flavors. It's just amazing with these pie irons how simple it is to cook some really delicious stuff with them. I can't believe I didn't pick some of these up years ago. I love this little titanium plate. I just put a little bit of water in it and set it on the coals, and then not only will that wash out the titanium plate, but it gives me a little bit of warm water to kind of wash me off a little bit too. A little warm water and a couple of these blue shop towels. Well, I had an amazing dinner, and I just went out and kind of replenished the wood supply a little bit. Not so much for tonight. I think pretty quick I'm just going to head up into the rooftop tent and relax a little bit up there. I'm just going to let the fire die down here, but I wanted to have a good wood supply for the morning. So I'm just going to chill, let my fire kind of die down a little bit and enjoy the evening. Man, it's quiet out here and the temperature is really dropping. It'll be a chilly night, but I've got all the right gear up in the rooftop tent and I'll be nice and toasty and comfortable. Yeah, this is a perfect little spot here. I got a nice overhead cover from the tree, a little bit of a wind block here. The wind's starting to pick up a little bit now, but I'm pretty well sheltered from it in this little grove of trees here, so this worked out just perfect. Oh, thank God for the heater in the rooftop tent, man. The temperature's dropping, but I'm nice and cozy up in my tent. I'm just going to read a little bit longer and then have a little nap. So I think my adventure for this day is about done. I will see you guys in the morning for coffee. For tonight, Coyote Works out.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is about 5 a.m. in the morning. About 13 degrees outside right now. Just turned the heater on. Getting ready to have some coffee. A couple of packets of instant coffee here. Dump inside a water bottle. That'll get me going. Actually just started getting a little bit cold towards this morning, so all in all it was a pretty good night. It was pretty toasty. The inside of the tent's nice and dry. No condensation. That's just incredible. This tent just... Alright, I'm going to enjoy my coffee and start working up the motivation to go out there and get a fire going. Oh man, I've got a really good breakfast planned for this morning. Well, at least in theory, it's going to be a really good breakfast. I have a plan in my mind. Haven't actually tried before, so stick around a few more minutes. We'll see if it works out well for me. That coffee will put hair on your chest like that.
Alright, first things first, we're going to get a little fire going here. I got a decent supply of wood, and one thing I always do at night is I turn my chair upside down and I put it up underneath the tree, which is a good thing I did that because it didn't snow a lot, but we did get, a half inch or so of snow. The sun's just starting to peek up above the trees over there, and it is just beautiful out here. The sun's shining down through the trees. I can see just some light flakes of snow coming down. I don't know if the camera's picking them up, but I got just a very light, faint little snow. Got a good fire going. Just gonna kick back, enjoy my morning coffee, and let the fire burn down to some nice coals before I start fixing breakfast. All right, guys, it is time to cook some breakfast. So, one thing that I like to do when I'm cooking is try to utilize some of the same ingredients for a couple of different meals, and that just cuts down on the total number of food items that I'm bringing with me. So this morning for breakfast, I'm utilizing a couple of the things that I used in my dinner last night: the cheese, the sour cream, the sausage, and the green onions. Now, the other thing that I'm going to add to the ingredients list for breakfast is the seasoned hash browns, and I just buy whatever kind of frozen ones that I can find, frozen or refrigerated hash browns. That saves a lot of effort out here. And then, of course, my eggs and my little egg carrier that Jamie and Sarah out in Idaho got me. So I'm going to mix this all up into a concoction that's going to make for an absolutely wonderful breakfast. Alright, so my last video I had a couple of scenes where I was wearing some gloves, and I don't always wear these when I'm cooking, but when I'm handling raw meat or eggs, especially out here in the wintertime, a lot of times I'll put on these medical gloves while I'm cooking, and it just cuts down the number of times that I'm washing my hands, that I'm using water. Out here in this kind of country where there's no water, and in the winter when it's all frozen, I either have to carry my water or melt snow to get my water. So both of those things take effort, and also it's a constant battle when the temperatures are like this, keeping water from freezing. So the less I can use water when I'm out here, the better. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line my pan with hash browns. So, let's open up our hash browns. And I'm going to take a good amount of hash browns and press it down into the bottom of this pan. And I want to press them nice and tight so they're really compact in there. So after I've compacted my hash browns, I put a little bit of cheese in there. Crack an egg in there. Layer in some sausage. A few green onions. And then just a little bit more cheese. Now I'll just set this right down on some coals, not too hot of coals. I want to be able to cook this for a little while, so I'm going to go for about 8 minutes on this. Alright, let's see the reveal here. Oh, that didn't work out so well, did it? Alright, so this one didn't work out so well, but at least it didn't come out of the pie iron really well, but it still looks really good. Alright, well, so this one didn't work out so well as far as it didn't come out of the pie irons really well, but nevertheless it's piping hot, and it looks like just a delicious blend of sausage, cheese, green onions. Nope, that's good, guys. I'll do this one again. Might have to figure out temperature wise what it takes to make it come out in the pan good, but that's a good sized breakfast for all coming out of one of those little pie tins. Alright, it might need a little refinement, but I'd say this one's a keeper. Pie iron stuffed hash browns. So the sun's out, and I want to give it a little while to hit my rooftop tent to dry it off. And I want to kind of check out this area a little bit, because like I showed you guys yesterday, someone has camped here in the far, far distant past. So I want to hike around this old growth juniper grove and see if I can find anything else. Now, of course, with the snow on the ground, the chances aren't great of me finding anything. But you never know, maybe I find another piece of wire, a can sticking up through the snow or something like that. This is a really neat area here. I'm just following this. It's kind of a finger of this old growth juniper tree forest, but man, there are some massive old juniper trees in here. There's one right there I'll show you guys that's probably 5 feet in diameter at the base. A lot of these trees are probably, some of them could be a couple hundred years old, but the vast majority of them are 100 plus years, 150 plus years for sure. This one right here is probably 5 feet in diameter. Yeah, here's another pretty big one. These juniper trees are kind of an island of resources out here in the middle of a lot of this country is real open and flat, more scrub brush. But where these big old juniper trees are is kind of a haven for wildlife, birds, badgers, coyotes, the deer, a lot of animal shelter in these big trees, porcupines. So it's a pretty resource rich area. So back in the day, these were really logical places for the settlers, the people who are traveling through this country, including the Native Americans, to camp in. Not to mention that the junipers provided, these big old junipers provide good shelter and a good source of wood. So one of the questions I get asked a lot is why I feel the need to carry a rifle with me sometimes when I'm out hiking around, and I don't always, but sometimes I do, and I do for a couple reasons, but the main one is just because when I grew up and we went out in the woods, that's just what we did. We had a rifle with us, whether we were hunting for deer or whether we were just out kicking around and exploring. We usually always had guns with us, and that's just kind of the way it is out in this kind of country, and for me it's just something that I enjoy. So I've come into a big flock of robins here. They move through areas like this eating the juniper trees, and especially in the wintertime you see them kind of flocking up like this. And there's just probably in, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred square yards, there's got to be hundreds of them. There's one right there in the tree, but things like this would be an awesome food source if you were in a survival situation out here. What's interesting is a lot of these old junipers get really big around, but they don't get that tall, because once they start sticking up way above the other trees, they end up getting struck by lightning. So almost every single one of these big old juniper trees has a top shortened off. It's been struck by lightning. In the summertime, we get these massive lightning storms out here across the desert, and they always tend to hit the tallest trees out there. Well guys, it's starting to cool off and some clouds are coming in, so we could get a little bit more snow. So I'm going to beat feet back to camp and get my rooftop tent stowed away. I just tossed a little bit more wood on the fire. I basically just want to keep my fire going enough as I break down my camp so that if I have any trash, I can burn the last of my trash on my way out of here. But right now, I had a good walk, so just going to rehydrate and relax for a few minutes. Nice. Looks like my ready light is fully charged. It's been out here in the sun for, I guess maybe 2.5 hours now, and it's good to go. Got some weather coming in. The first couple of snowflakes started to land, so I can get everything packed up that I can before it gets snowy again. One thing I do when I pack up my chair is I got a bungee cord that I wrap around it, and I just do that because when I'm bouncing around along these rough roads out here, things have a tendency to rattle. And so this keeps it nice and tight and keeps it from rattling while I'm bouncing down the road. So on trips like this in the wintertime, I don't bring much ice with me, but I'm going to be exploring in the Jeep for a couple of hours. So I've got some food in the cooler that I want to keep cool. So I'm just going to fill up a plastic bag with some snow, and then I'll set that on top of my food in the cooler. You don't really need to buy ice in the wintertime, at least out in this country, because you got all kinds of it. There we go, got a nice little ice pack. Stick this ice pack in my cooler. Now keep all my beverages nice and cool. All right, let's hit the trail. Wow, I'm cruising across just this beautiful open country out here, but I'm starting to get into a few snow drifts. So I just have to keep my momentum up when I'm going through them, and hopefully I don't hit too long of a stretch of them all at once. Geez, some of them are like 18 inches, 2 feet deep. And the snow is just, it's hard and crusty, it's melted and then frozen again. So I'm gonna head a ways down, kind of backtracking a little bit, part of the route that I came in on yesterday, and oh man, the sun just came out and it is beautiful out here. So anyway, I'm gonna head back down my tracks a little ways and then take a little side trip and try to go find something interesting. Hopefully you guys can see this line of rocks right here on the camera, but I just saw this out of the corner of my eye when I was driving along this little Jeep track here. So I jumped out and I'm gonna check this area out because these rocks have been here for a long time. You can tell by all the lichen on them, and they were definitely stacked here by the hand of man. So there's something here. Maybe a homestead site, maybe an old military camp, who knows, but there's definitely something here. All right, I don't know if you guys can hear this. The wind's blowing pretty good out here. Man, the temperature's dropping. But right here underneath this old twisted juniper tree is some shards of ceramic, an old Depression era glass. So there was definitely something here, guys. Wow, this is crazy, you guys. This old hand-dug, hand-cased well out here in the middle of nowhere. So the crazy thing is, if this well's here, then there's a homestead site here. So obviously with the snow on the ground, my chances of finding the homestead site aren't good, but I'm marking this one on the map because this is really, really cool. This is just crazy. This is an awesome find, man. I'm really stoked about this. Oh, I can't tell you guys how stoked I am about finding that thing. I marked it on my GPS app. I'm using Gaia GPS, and now I'm going to record a track out of here so I can make sure to find this place. Man, as soon as the snow's gone, I'm going to come back and explore this. But I'll tell you what, it is getting cold out there. The temperature has dropped. Right now, my thermometer says it's 18 degrees in my Jeep, but I bet with that wind chill out there, it's even colder, man. It just got cold all at once. And that finding that well is just a perfect example of how when you're out in this country like this, man, you gotta check out. Anytime you see something out of the ordinary, it pays to go check it out. A lot of times it's nothing, or at least you're not able to find anything there, but I can't tell you guys how many times I find homesteads, mines, all kinds of stuff out in this country just because I saw an old can, I saw an old stack of rocks or something, and I jump out and start looking around it. It's just incredible how much history there is out here. It seems so desolate when you just drive through it or when you look at it from a distance. But there was history and stuff happening all over this country. I had a few more hours to explore and drive some of the little back roads out there before it was time to start meandering towards home. As always, the trip was a welcome reprieve from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, but like all good things, it eventually had to come to an end. As always, I appreciate you guys joining me for the adventure, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. But until then, Coyote Works, out.